So as this first goes out, Apple has released the first beta versions, first test versions of the next iOS for iPhone, macOS for the Mac, and so on. But Apple has also this year been unusually firm. Let's go with firm in how it does not want this stuff shown in print or on videos like this, and it's their software. It's up to them. But it means that where I had intended to rush up to you like a puppy now with all the good bits coming to the Mac for you and me as writers, and then the iPhone and the iPad, all of this, that has to wait. I believe not for long. Actually, I think in July, when the test versions go out to the public, to go out to a wider pool of users, that's when we'll be able to do a proper deep dive into this. But in the meantime, well, again, seriously, I have no problem with Apple or anyone not wanting their first drafts to be seen in public. We get that, don't we? I am also ridiculously tempted to show you something else that I think maybe Apple won't like, presumably, because it means not buying an Apple device. Here's the thing. 5 weeks ago now, Apple brought out new iPads, and you know how this works. As great as any iPad or any other Apple device you own, as great as it is right now, Apple is somehow brilliant at making you want the new one. It's really a skill. I mean, they write their spiel superbly, I think. And one result is that every single time you buy an Apple device, you do know there's going to be a better version of it in a few months' time. And sometimes one result is that you buy the new one in a few months' time. Apple launched the new iPad Air and iPad Pro on May 7, 2024, and I've decided I don't want one. I thought I did, but these are expensive devices, and since I got a 14-inch MacBook Pro, I haven't used my 2021 iPad Pro much at all. So as tempted as I still am really, by the new iPads, it seemed to me highly possible that I could buy one and then continue to not use it enough. So let's look into this. I thought I went back to my 2021 iPad Pro, and I have had a true iPad renaissance in the past 5 weeks. I've become an obsessive iPad user. Join me. I'd like to give you some examples in case you are underrating the iPad as much as I think I have been. In fact, actually, I'd like to get, well, I could go on quite a while for this. How about this? Let's have 5 examples, but I don't just mean here are 5 apps that are good. I mean 5 specific types of app, 5 use cases for the iPad, ones that I believe are particularly good for us as writers, and it seems that for me has been very good in my writing business. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use and write exclusively on iPads. Okay. Also on Macs and iPhones. Do subscribe or support 58 Keys on Patreon, because there's so much to talk about. I don't think I really appreciated how much there is to talk about with these things. Where has my iPad been all my life? Let me start with this. And actually, I mean this right now, what we are doing, you and I. I identify as a scriptwriter. And I write the 58 Keys episode scripts so that I don't waste your time just talking off the top of my head, nattering away, when I could be telling you more in less time. All right, okay, I might go off a little. Oh, stop looking at me like that. I'll get on with it. Well. I write 58 Keys in this on the outliner, usually bouncing between the iPad and the Mac version, sometimes the iPhone, just depending on where I am and what's nearby. I reach for the nearest screen. I do tend to type on this, the Magic Keyboard. A bit dusty, but you can use any external keyboard, and you can, of course, write on the glass of the iPad. I mean, I've done that thousands of words. On the outliner, yeah, I could write in Pages. That's on the iPad, and I do. I write quite a lot of things in Pages on the iPad. I could also write the script in Final Draft. However, I have found the iPad version of Final Draft is a tiny bit ropey, but then maybe that's just me. I have a friend who writes all of his radio scripts in Final Draft on his iPad. So one reason I write it on the outliner, though, is because you can do this. If that's writing, though, Then another part of our job as writers is reading. And the iPad is just exceptional when you want to read. I mentioned the Magic Keyboard. In some ways now, I think it was a mistake to buy that, because once I'd spent all that money, I tended to use it. Okay, you're not shocked, but using it meant both good and bad things, I think now. The good was that typing on the Magic Keyboard for the iPad is excellent, really good, best experience on a keyboard case I've had. But the bad is that the keyboard is a case, and I tended to leave it wrapped around the iPad all the time, which meant I tended to always have the iPad in landscape, whatever I was doing. And I just immensely prefer reading in portrait. I prefer everything in portrait. So now I do. This is a script I'm just reading online in Safari, a book I'm reading in Kindle, another book, actually I've finished this one in Apple Books, and this is Apple News Plus. It's long become my chief source of news, really, and until my iPad renaissance, I read it every day on my iPhone. Now, somehow, the iPhone version feels small enough to be a little irritating, and instead it feels right on the iPad, particularly in the magazines section. Then, partly for work, mostly for pleasure, I am still addicted to Reader. This one, I do read on the iPhone or the iPad, and also the Mac, but actually wherever I am with that, in fact, with Reader and with Apple News Plus, what routinely happens is that I'll find something interesting, I really want to read it, and I haven't got time to read it now, so I save it into Instapaper. It feels like I build up like a Sunday supplement style of magazine articles that I can just sit down and enjoy later. I use Instapaper, but there is also Pocket, and actually I kind of prefer the look of Pocket. But I used to use that extensively, years and years ago, so extensively. And it turns out I've got hundreds of articles in there that I never got around to reading 5 years ago, and now I can't get rid of any of them to start afresh. Oh, I've also been trying Flipboard, but so far it's proving to be really irritating. Plus, that headline, the strange region even, while you rarely see clean-shaven pilots, it's actually an article about why you rarely see pilots with beards. Can't blame Flipbook for having totally the opposite headline. Oh, the reason is, if you're curious, apparently beards get in the way when you have to wear oxygen masks. So I suppose we learned something from Flipboard. One thing I've not been trying on the iPad is reading comic books, and that would be chiefly because I don't happen to read comic books at all. Don't know why, but I'm told that they are fantastic on iPads. So that's writing and reading, but we tend to have to plan things, but plan's too strong a word, isn't it, really? I'm still not a great fan of outlining. Despite my daily dependence on the outliner. But we have to think, that's the word, think. Here's an example of thinking. Normally, actually, my thinking is in Omni Outliner. That's an ideas management app more than it is, book outlining, although it is a book outline. During this iPad renaissance, it happened that I was doing a job that needed thinking and planning in, I felt, different ways, such as this. On the left, Apple Notes on my iPad with actually lots of confidential things I'm working out, and it's just you and me, all right, and it's not finished yet, probably all changing. This is a schedule I was working out for publication of various things for a charity, and there are issues over so when something comes out, when work starts on it, but also how each bit fits around each other. Fine. What you're seeing there is not exactly an end result, but because it is still all being worked on, but it's an end for now result. I've got as far as I can, and now that I've got it all kind of straight in my head, I need to confer with other people, and that's what I do. But part of getting to this stage was having Apple Notes there, working away, collecting information, and also having fantastical calendar on the right so that I could, check dates. Really, it is actually more complicated than that, but it's not more interesting than that. So yeah, okay, press on. In this specific case, though, what I pressed on to was emails. And I was doing this work last Saturday morning, so I used Mail's Send Later to make sure that the emails were chucked out to people on Monday morning. Why bother people over their weekend, but could do that on the iPad. And then actually, again, in this specific case, I went over to here, OmniPlan. This is a project management app, and I use it for very broad overviews of jobs. I mean, I can see from this, for example, just how busy it's going to be at different times, how the separate parts of the project fit together. And then as those parts near, or actually just as I think of extra things to do, I take all of this to OmniFocus, my to-do app on the iPad and everywhere else, and add all of them in as things to actually do. William, get them done. So writing, reading, thinking, editing. You saw me make an addition to Omni Outliner and move it around. I mean, that's editing, and well, of course, you know it's editing because you're a writer. Okay. I would like, though, to quickly offer that the editing you and I do as writers is the same as the editing that we might do for video and audio. I actually believe that audio and video editing uses the same skills, the same creative mental muscles that we need for writing. And I could go on about this a lot. But let's just say that the reason it's on my mind to go on about this a lot is that specifically this type of editing has proven truly key to this renaissance of mine with the iPad. And it's done it in two ways. First, Final Cut Pro for the iPad. I tried this last year. I was actually excited that it had come out, but I didn't really take to it, and certainly not enough to subscribe for £50 a year when I already have Final Cut Pro on the Mac. It's what I edit every 58 keys video in. But Apple's launch of the iPads, the new iPads, they also plugged that there was a new version of Final Cut Pro coming to the iPad. It isn't here yet, still not here, it's coming soon. But because they talked about it then, I looked again at the current Final Cut Pro, and I really liked it. It's so much that actually I have now subscribed for the year, and I fully expect to continue. I did also use the 3 months trial of Apple's audio editor, Logic Pro, which is also being updated. In fact, that has been updated. It's actually amazing. Thing is, it's amazing in ways that so is Logic Pro on the Mac, which I also already have. I'm not going to be subscribing to Logic Pro for iPad, and especially not because of this. I bought this Ferrite Pro for iPad. I've used it before. In fact, I thought I'd bought it before, actually, but in the last few weeks I've been editing podcasts on it, and it is proving extremely good, extremely fast for that. One example, because I really like this. When I need to cut something out of the audio, because it was a cough or it was scandalously libelous, something like that, well, I can draw up with the Apple Pencil, swipe to the side, and it's gone. Oh yeah, Apple Pencil. Let me come back to that, because there's one more type of thing to enthuse at you about first. Writing, reading, thinking, editing. I can't think of a name for this fifth and last. Miscellaneous? Oh, that's rubbish. General? Anyway, the last one. During the last few weeks, this month or so, as I've become yet more of an iPad devotee, I did have one moment when I needed to check something in one of those charity magazines that I'm planning, one of the previous issues of the charities magazine. Given where I was, I couldn't go online to do much, so I opened it. I opened it in Affinity Publisher on the iPad. I could have done the whole issue on the iPad. I found things I'd forgotten, such as this. Swipe up from the bottom right, and I'm writing a quick note in Apple Notes, which, as you saw earlier, is the one I use, the note-taking app I use. And this was entirely new to me. Swipe up from the left, and I've taken a screenshot. So much faster than the other ways. The list goes on. In fact, I tell you what, we'll finish up in a moment, and then you can go right or watch another video. But I'm going to carry on sitting here just talking and talking about the iPad. I think you've gathered that I like the iPad, but I don't think you're surprised, really. I mean, you and I can take this thin, quite dirty sheet of glass with us anywhere and do anything. Well, I say that. I think I've made it sound as if you can do anything on an iPad that you can on a Mac, and that's not true. The iPad isn't as good for recording audio, for instance, or at least not for recording more than one audio source at a time. What was on my mind, what I intended for you to see, was that as an example, given what I need as a writer and my writing business, I am able to do so much of it on this glass pane. Oh yeah, and one last thing, the Apple Pencil. I would never have bought an Apple Pencil. It would not have crossed my mind because my handwriting is so poor, seriously. But you saw that edit in Ferrite Pro, and look at this. You can scribble into any part. That's a Safari address. Scribble right into it and off you go. I love this. I've also, signed a document. I've signed my life away with this Apple Pencil. And I've also, you may have noticed this, twiddled it around while I've been trying to think of what the next word to say is. Put it down. And all because I found this Apple Pencil. On the one hand, I think that was startling good luck for me, and unfortunately bad luck for whoever lost it in Tokyo. Sorry. But it has also guaranteed now, on the bad side, if I do buy a new pad, one of this year's ones or later, then I'm going to have to buy a new Apple Pencil to go with it. That's actually my one criticism of the pencil. You have to be sure to get the pencil that works with your iPad. But I am a fan. Let's talk about my Apple Pencil Renaissance. Yeah, all right, maybe not. Okay. How about instead we go for this? That's it for this edition of 58 Keys. Thank you very much for watching. Now take care of yourself. Hey, write more on iPads, on Macs, even paper if you must. And I'll see you soon.